Spring is just around the corner, and what better way to start it than with an Illustrator text effect. Hi there everyone, my name is Andre Marius. I've been working in Illustrator for over 10 years, and in this Envato Tuts Plus tutorial I'll put my experience to use as I show you step by step how you can create this spring-inspired text effect using Adobe Illustrator. To complete this tutorial you need this Wonder Boys font, which you can get from Envato Elements, so make sure to check out Envato Elements, where with a simple subscription you can get unlimited access to millions of creative digital assets such as music, graphics, photos, fonts, and many more. You can subscribe right now with the link in the description. Also in the description you will find a link which will get you to the written version of the tutorial. Let's move to Illustrator to create a new document. Select pixels from this drop-down menu. Set the width to 850 pixels and the height to 500 pixels. Make sure that the color mode is set to RGB and the resolution to 72 pixels per inch. And then you can click this button to create your new document. Press Ctrl and 0 to fit the artboard on your entire screen. And before we start the work on the design, let's open all the panels that will be used throughout this tutorial. Go to Window in the menu bar. First of all, make sure that the control panel is active, and then open all the panels that have this check mark. Don't forget to also open the character panel, and then go to View and Show Grid to enable the grid. Again, go to View and Snap to Grid to enable the Snap to Grid feature. And for this tutorial, you need a grid line every 1 pixel. So let's go to Edit, Preferences, Guides and Grid. Just enter 1 in this grid line every box. Click OK to apply the changes. And let's start by selecting the ellipse tool from your toolbar. Select the stroke and remove the color. Double click the fill color and replace it with 255, 197 and 17. Now you can click on your artboard to create an 8 by 16 pixels shape. Press Ctrl and plus a few times to zoom in on this new shape. Press Ctrl and C to copy it, and then Ctrl F to add a copy in front. Press again Ctrl and F to add a second copy in front. Switch to the selection tool from your toolbar and use it to move this shape 3 pixels up like this. Now hold down the Shift key to select this copy along with the first one. Move to the Pathfinder panel and click this minus front button. And then keep this resulting shape selected to replace the fill color with 235, 137 and 0. Reselect the ellipse tool and use it to create a 2 by 9 pixel shape. Press the V hotkey to quickly select the selection tool. Move this shape in this exact location. Switch to the anchor point tool and just click this point to turn it into a sharp point. And then use the direct selection tool. Hold down the Shift key to select these 2 points. And let's move them 1.5 pixels down like this. Once you're done, use the selection tool to select all of your shapes. Press Ctrl and G to group them. Press Ctrl and minus to zoom out a bit. And then go to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Transform. Make sure that you have this preview box checked to notice the changes as you make them. Start by checking this bottom middle reference point. Set the angle to 72 degrees. Increase the number of copies to 4. And then you can click OK to apply this effect. Reselect the ellipse tool from your toolbar. Now you can hold down the Shift key as you click and drag. Create a 6 pixel circle, and remember that you can have a look inside the info panel to know exactly when you get to 6 pixels. Fill this new shape with 182, 99 and 29. And then use again the selection tool to move this shape in this exact location. Now that you've got your first flower design, let's move to the second one. Use again the ellipse tool and click on your artboard to create an 8 by 13 pixel shape. Press Ctrl and plus to zoom in on this new shape and replace the fill color with 226, 77 and 117. Continue with the anchor point tool. Click this point and just drag the handles 1 pixel to the right like this. Switch to the selection tool to select this entire shape. Press Ctrl C and then Ctrl F twice to add 2 copies in front. Move the top copy 2 pixels up and then select it along with the other copy. Click the minus front button from the Pathfinder panel. Fill the resulting shape with 124, 53 and 137. Don't forget to lower the opacity of this shape to 50%. Reselect this shape and press again Ctrl and F to add another 2 copies in front. Hold down the Alt key and use the bounding box to squeeze your selected shape like this. Move it 2 pixels up and then select it along with the other copy. Click again the minus front button from the Pathfinder panel and then focus on the layers panel. Hold down the Alt key and click the target icon that stands for this shape and simply drag it on top of the target icon that stands for your selected shape. This must be one of the easiest methods that you can use to easily transfer the appearance settings from one shape to another. Let's continue with the line segment tool. Use it to create a 9 pixel vertical path like this. Increase the stroke weight to 3 points. Replace the stroke color with 124, 53 and 137. Lower the opacity of this stroke to 50% and then open the stroke flyout menu and select with profile number 4 from this list. Now you can select all of these shapes and press Ctrl and G to group them. Press Ctrl and minus a few times to zoom out and go to Effect, Distort and Transform and Transform. Again, start by checking this middle bottom reference point. Set the angle to 45 degrees and increase the number of copies to 7. And then you can click OK to apply this effect. Continue with the ellipse tool and use it to create an 8 pixel circle. Fill this new shape with 255, 209 and 59. Add a second fill for your shape using this button. Select the new fill and replace the color with 254, 163 and 0. Go to Effect, Path and Offset Path. Set the offset to -1 pixel and click OK. Select the stroke, increase the stroke width to 2 points. Replace the color with 255, 209 and 59. Open the stroke flyout panel and first of all check this round cap button. Next, check this dash line box and enter 0 and 2 in these 2 boxes. Make sure that you have this button checked and then use the selection tool to move this shape in this exact location. This will be your second flower design. Hold down the spacebar so you can move it aside. Continue with the rectangle tool from your toolbar and let's create the third flower design. Click on your artboard to create a 14 by 18 pixel shape. You can press the D hotkey to quickly replace the current appearance settings with the default ones. Select the stroke and remove the color. Select the fill and replace the color with 140, 211 and 197. Press Ctrl and plus to zoom in on this new shape. Switch to the direct selection tool and use it to select these 2 points. Go to Object, Path and Average. Check this both box and click OK to turn your rectangle into a triangle. Select these other 2 points and move to the control panel. Set the corner's radius to 4.5 pixels and then select your entire shape and go to Effect, Warp and Squeeze. Check this vertical box, set the bend to 50%, click OK to apply this effect, and let's continue with the line segment tool. First of all, use it to create an 11 pixels vertical path like this. Select the stroke and make it 2 points wide. Replace the color with 10, 171, and 157. Lower the opacity to 30% and change the blending mode to multiply. Don't forget to select with profile number 4 from this list, and then return to your design and draw an oblique path somewhat like this. Move to the layers panel and use these target icons to transfer the appearance settings from your first line to this new one. Decrease the stroke width to 1 point and increase the opacity of this new line to 50%. And then press Ctrl C and Ctrl F to add a copy in front. Let's use the reflect tool to flip this path, and then use the selection tool to move it in this exact location. Once you're done, select all of these shapes, and as always, press Ctrl and G to group them, press Ctrl and minus to zoom out a bit, and then go again to Effect, Restore and Transform, and Transform. For this first effect, check this Reflect Y box, set the number of copies to 1, and drag the Move Vertical slider to 18 pixels. Click OK to apply this first effect, and go one more time to Effect, Restore and Transform, and Transform. For this second effect, you need to set the angle to 60 degrees and increase the number of copies to 2. Click OK to apply this second effect, and let's reselect the ellipse tool from your toolbar to create the center of this flower. Start by clicking on your arbor to create a 10 pixel circle. Fill this new shape with 255, 126, and 1. Select the stroke and replace the color with 255, 197, and 17. Focus on the stroke and let's align it to inside, and also increase the stroke weight to 2 points. Now use the selection tool to move this shape in the center of your flower. And now that you've got this third flower, let's move it aside and continue with the next flower design. Reselect the ellipse tool from your toolbar. Use it to create a 5 by 12 pixels shape. Select the stroke and remove the color. Select the fill and make sure that the color is set to 255, 126, and 1. Press Ctrl and plus a few times to zoom in on this new shape. Use the anchor point tool to turn this point into a sharp point, and then use the direct selection tool to select these 2 points and drag them 2 pixels up like this. Now reselect the ellipse tool from your toolbar and use it to create a 1 by 5 pixels shape. Use the selection tool to place it in this exact location and replace this fill color with 254, 163, and 0. Now select both of these shapes and press Ctrl G to group them. Go to Effect, Restore and Transform, and Transform. Again, check this Reflect Y box and set the number of copies to 1. Drag the Move Vertical slider to 17 pixels. Click OK, and let's apply a second transform effect. For this one, set the number of copies to 3 and the angle to 45 degrees. Click OK to apply the second drop shadow effect. Let's expand these effects by going to Object and Expand Appearance. Keep this resulting group of shapes selected and go to Effect, Warp, and Wave. Check this vertical box, set the bend to -10%, click OK to apply this new effect, and now let's create the center of this flower. Reselect the ellipse tool from your toolbar. Use it to create a 7 pixel circle. You can use the eyedropper tool to easily fill this new shape with this color. Move to the stroke, set the weight to 2 points. Replace the color that's used for this stroke with 255, 197, and 17. Make sure that you're aligning this stroke to inside, and then move this shape in the center of the flower like this. Once you're done, you can move aside this flower design and start the work on the fifth and final flower design. Again, use the ellipse tool from your toolbar to create a 19 pixel circle. Remove the stroke that's applied for this new shape. Select the fill and replace the color with 252, 165, and 23. Switch to the selection tool, hold down the Alt key and drag a copy of the circle 17 pixels to the right like this. Select both of these shapes and unite them using this button from the Pathfinder panel. Press Ctrl and minus to zoom out a bit. Reselect the ellipse tool and this time use it to create a 22 pixel circle. Fill this new shape with red. Switch to the selection tool and use it to select both of these shapes. Click just this orange shape to make it the reference shape and click these two buttons to align your red shape. Select again just this red shape and drag it 8 pixels up like this. Let's move it behind your orange shape in the layers panel. And now reselect both of these shapes and click the intersect button from the Pathfinder panel. Continue with the ellipse tool and use it to create a 14 by 9 pixel shape. Fill this new shape with 255, 197, and 17. Place this new shape in this exact location and then use the direct selection tool to select this point and drag it 10 pixels down like this. Select this entire shape and add 2 copies in front. Select the top copy and move it 3 pixels up like this. Select both copies and click the minus front button from the Pathfinder panel. And with the resulting shape selected, let's change the blending mode to overlay. Once you're done, reselect the ellipse tool from your toolbar. Use it to create a 12 pixel circle. Fill it with white and place it in this exact location. Reselect the ellipse tool and this time create a 10 pixel circle. Fill this new shape with 111, 169, and 33. Switch to the selection tool, hold down the Alt key and drag a copy of the circle 10 pixels to the right like this. Select both of these green shapes and press Ctrl and 8 to turn them into a compound path. Let's move this compound path in this position. Select it along with your white circle and click the intersect button from the Pathfinder panel. Select the ellipse tool one more time and use it to create a 12 pixel circle. Fill this new shape with 141, 199, and 63. Switch to the selection tool and use it to drag a copy 6 pixels to the right like this. Select both of these shapes and place them somewhat like this. And then click again this intersect button from the Pathfinder panel. Now use the line segment tool to create a vertical path like this. Make it 5 pixels long. Select the stroke and set the width to 1 point. Replace this color with 141, 199, and 63. Switch to the selection tool and drag a copy of this line somewhere around this area. Select it along with your entire flower and rotate it 90 degrees like this. Select just the flower and drag it inside the swatches panel to save it as a pattern. And then select just this line to save it as a pattern brush. Focus on the brushes panel, and before we save this line as a pattern brush, let's get rid of all these brushes that you don't need. Open the flyer menu from the brushes panel, go to select all unused, and simply click this button to delete all your unused brushes. Now, having this line selected, let's click this button, check the pattern brush box, keep most of the settings as they come, just click this tile and apply your saved pattern. Click OK to save this pattern brush, press Ctrl and 0 to zoom back on your entire design. And let's continue with the rest of your flower designs. Select the yellow one, return to the brushes panel and click again this button. This time check the scatter brush box and click OK. First of all, set all 4 variables to random, and then set the size range between 50 and 150%. Do the same for the spacing. The scatter should go between -10% and 10%. And finally, for the rotation, make it go between 0 degrees and 180 degrees. Click OK to save this new brush and move to your second flower design. Select all of these shapes to save them as a new scatter brush. Again, set all 4 variables to random. And for the range settings, make them go between 50 to 150%, 100 to 200%, -10 to 10%, and 0 to 180 degrees. Click OK to save this new brush. Move to your next flower design. Select it and save it as a new scatter brush. Again, set the variables to random and make the ranges go between 30 and 100%, 150 to 200%, -40 to -20%, and 0 to 180 degrees. Click OK to save this new brush. Move to your next flower design, select it, and again save it as a new scatter brush. Set the variables to random. And for the ranges, let's go between 50 to 100%, 100 to 200%, -80 to 0%, and again 0 to 180 degrees. Click OK to save this final brush. And now that you've got all of these brushes, you can select these shapes and delete them. You can also disable the grid. And let's continue with the type tool to create the text effect. Focus on the character panel. Select that Wonder Boys font, which you got from Envato Elements. Increase the size to 200 and the tracking to 100. Click on your artboard and let's type in spring. Press the escape key to easily switch to the selection tool. Let's focus on the control panel. Make sure that the alignment is set to artboard, and then click these 2 buttons to easily move your text in the center of the artboard. Now click this none swatch to remove the current text color. Click this button to add a new fill for your text. Keep this new fill selected and replace the color with 111, 169, and 33. Go to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Roughen. First of all, check these 2 boxes. Lower the size to 2 pixels and keep the detail set to 10. Click OK to apply the effect, and let's move to the stroke. Select it, set the weight to 1 point. Replace the color with 141, 199, and 63. And then go to Effect, Path, and Offset Path. Set the offset to 1 pixel. Click OK, and let's apply again a roughen effect. Again, check these 2 boxes, lower the size to 2 pixels, and keep the detail set to 10. Click OK to apply this effect, and let's add a second stroke for your text using this button. Apply your yellow flower brush, go to Effect, Path, and Offset Path. Set the offset to -5 pixels and click OK. You can also change the stroke color to yellow. This will not affect the look of your design, but it might help you to better differentiate the applied strokes. Let's add a new one. Keep it selected and apply your new scatter brush. Again, change the color with something like this and go again to Effect, Path, and Offset Path. This time set the offset to -10 pixels. Click OK and return to the appearance panel to add a new stroke. Just apply your next scatter brush and change the stroke color with something like this. Add one more stroke and apply your final scatter brush. Change the stroke color with orange, and let's continue with the brush tool. Select your pattern brush from the brushes panel and use it to draw several pairs of wavy paths, somewhat like this. Move to the first letter from your text and draw another 2 paths like this. And finally 2 more paths, one like this and another one like this. Once you're done, let's use the selection tool to select one path from each pair and just lower the stroke weight to 0.5 points. Now select your text along with these paths and press Ctrl G to group them. Remember to drag your text on top of the paths and then go to Effect, Stylize and Drop Shadow. Check this darkness box and set it to 0%. Set the opacity to 50%, the offset values to 0 and 6 pixels. Increase the blur to 8 pixels and make sure that the blending mode is set to multiply. And then you can click OK to apply this effect. For the final touches, let's create the background. So select the rectangle tool from your toolbar. Use it to create a shape that covers your entire artboard. Again, you can use these 2 buttons to easily center your shape. Let's press Shift and X to easily swap the fill and stroke color settings. Select the fill and replace it with 244, 255 and 213. And finally drag your text on top of the rectangle. With this final touch, your design is complete. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Remember to hit that like button as it helps me know that I did a good job. Subscribe if you aren't already, and don't forget to click that little bell icon to be notified of any new tutorials. I'm Andrei Marius, and I'll see you in the next video.